Hi, I'm Dinesh Souza, and I'm the creator of the new movie Death of a Nation and the accompanying book Death of a Nation. And the book is subtitled Plantation Politics and the Making of the Democratic Party. And as that title suggests, it's a controversial book, but it's one that is rooted in the present, the current political debate, and also in history. And I support my work with mainstream sources. They're all given in the book. So it's wonderful to see the movie. It's an experience. It's an emotional engagement. But the book is actually the intellectual spine of the movie. The book lays out all the references and footnotes. It'll make you, as I sometimes like to say, a very dangerous American. As you sometimes accuse me of being. This is my wife, Debbie, who's helping me out. Now, we're here to tell you that you can get not just a copy of the book, but a signed and autographed copy of the book. And here's the way that you do that. You go to premiercollectibles.com/Dinesh. Now, Premier is spelled Premiere. premiercollectibles.com/Dinesh. That's how you get your autographed book. I'm actually going to be signing a bunch of books right now, and I'm also going to be answering some questions that deal with topics in the book. So we're going to start with the questions, and in the process I'm going to be signing, but premiercollectibles.com. Go there, /Dinesh, and no, don't /Dinesh, but go to premiercollectibles.com/Dinesh and sign up to get your signed book. And do not sell it later on eBay. That's not allowed. That's the condition of you signing up to do this. Okay, cool. Here we go. Honey, you want to start with the first question, and I'm going to start the signing?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'll pass the books to you.
Yes. So some of them have who they're from and others don't. So this one is from Valerie Pierce from Gwynn, Michigan. I have a brilliant 17-year-old friend's son that wishes to become a history teacher and is one of your biggest fans. I would give anything to talk to him. Is there any way that you could help me make his dream come true?
Well, here's what I would suggest. This is really fantastic to have young people think about going into academia. Academia, unfortunately, has become very lopsided. It's very dominated by the left. We really could use some people with a conservative philosophy to go into academia and do important work. When I'm researching books, I find I'm looking for, let's say, books in LBJ. Well, there are 7 progressive biographies, and I go, well, can I find a biography by someone who is more critical of LBJ, who looks at things that the progressives might leave out about LBJ? And the answer is, it's hard to find those guys. So if your son wants to be one of those guys, I would say, go for it. Here, honey, I'm going to pass these to you to send that way.
So which liberal do you think you've angered the most? That's one of the questions.
There's going to be a lot of competition for that one. Because I anger people in all kinds of places. And I've angered a bunch of academics, partly because I've exposed them, and I have disrupted their narratives. But I would say maybe currently the historian Kevin Cruz at Princeton, he literally seems to be obsessed with me, tweet about me every day. I've clearly gotten his goat. Another man of the left that I've annoyed, and this was actually a little more painful for me, Barack Obama. And the reason was that he happened to be at that time the most powerful man in the world. And when you strike at the empire in that way, hey, the empire can strike back, as I learned. Fortunately, Trump is in office and he has undone that nonsense. And Obama, I'm sure, is not very happy about that. But yes, I'm responsible for the troubled and constipated looks that we see on the faces of so many people on the left.
So this one is a very interesting one because, of course, we just got through doing this. But is it difficult to get distribution for your films due to the politics?
And the answer to that, happily, and to my great relief, is no. Movies are, the film industry is divided into two parts. There's the studios, and that's a left-wing incestuous environment. I couldn't survive in that environment. And I don't even cherish its awards, which mean nothing to me. I would much rather get a Razzie for being a worst actor than an Oscar. Of course, the Razzie is a fraud, because how can I be the worst actor? I'm playing myself. I'm the world's expert at playing myself, by definition. But that being said, the distribution of movies is totally different. Regal, Cinemark, AMC. We don't have trouble getting our movies in the theaters, happily. That's why we're able to put them out there. So go see the movie. It'll put fuel in our rocket. It helps the movie move to more theaters. And get the book as well, because the two kind of go together. It's my 1-2 punch. The intellectual and the visual kind of complement each other.
How did you come up with the idea for the movie Death of a Nation?
Well, the idea springs out of current events. I mean, since Trump's election, we have been hearing these two incendiary words: racism, sometimes called white supremacy, and fascism. And these words are poison words. They're intended to be. They're intended to discredit Trump. In fact, they're intended to make him look like Hitler. Now, not the Hitler of 1945, because obviously Trump hasn't started a world war and he hasn't created gas chambers, but the Hitler of 1933. So the idea is the left is trying to create a rationale for using what they call any means necessary to get rid of Trump. And so in this movie, I say, okay, well, let's take a good look at racism and see which party really perpetrated it. And let's take a really good look at fascism and see what it means and whether the fascists were on the left or on the right. So there's a lot of documentation in here, and it isn't just history. It's history that comes alive in the present. And then I look at the very important question, where are the racists and fascists today? And I think that's probably the ultimate payoff of the book, is it shows you where, while the left is trying to create a stage, hey, look for racism over here, the real racism is over here. This is the institutionalized, exploitative, intergenerational racism, and they get away with it because they do the smoke and mirrors thing, in which they try to focus your attention someplace else.
Yes. So this next question, I
I
think it comes from the fact that you have on the movie poster, the image of Lincoln and Trump, right? So the question is, do you think another actual civil war could realistically ever happen in America, barring some sort of apocalyptic crisis?
Well, I think the answer to it is very unlikely. I hope it's unlikely. I want to do everything I can to avert that kind of catastrophe. I think it's terrible that we've moved away from the civility and kind of gentlemanly politics of the Reagan era. We should be discussing and debating our differences and not punching each other or trying to fight on the campus. But, our environment is troubled. And I say that because, here I'm released a movie in the theater. And as far as ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, they pretend the movie doesn't exist. They don't cover it. Why? They're hoping that if they don't cover it, it's not a fact in the world. And Americans won't even find out about it. So this is disgraceful. I mean, I'd rather be on CNN debating some legitimate historian about my ideas. But that's not how they feel about it. Now, we're not in civil war. Some people have said we're in a cold civil war. And there has been a troubling secession or separation of the American mind. But that being said, I'm hoping that this does not keep going down this road, and rather we step back and move to a better, happier, more decent politics.
This one is about the shooting. Do you shoot all the war clips for your films, or are they used from other shoots?
Shooting is a complicated business. Usually, we pretty much shoot all our own footage. We do these recreations, and you've got to do the recreations carefully. In this new movie, Death of a Nation, we're shooting some of the scenes of early fascism, the Nazi book burning of 1933, the suicide of Hitler and Eva Braun. And initially I thought we'd shoot the movie in Dallas, but then I looked around and I saw these Texans and they were just too happy looking and red-faced to really be Nazis. I thought it would be not convincing, so we went to Munich, we went to Prague, we found German-speaking actors, and the feeling of it is authentic. I mean, you feel like you're right there in mid-20th century Germany. capturing the whole decadence of that atmosphere. And so I'm very proud of the movie. I think it's my best movie. And if you've liked any of my previous movies, you've got to go. And then don't forget the book right here, which you can get an autographed copy to repeat, premiercollectibles.com/Dinesh. So Premier, Premiere, premiercollectibles.com/Dinesh for your signed book. And I'm actually signing them right now. And very excited both about the book and the film.
This next question is from Jeanette from Mooresville, North Carolina. Is there any hope for America's restoration?
Yes, absolutely. I really wouldn't be doing any of what I'm doing if there wasn't. Now, I am an optimist by temperament, but I'm also a realist. I think it's very important to distinguish the world as you wish it to be from the world as it is. And part of my experience with the Obama administration and confinement and all of that craziness was to give me, I think, a little more realistic perspective. American politics isn't just a debate between two sets of people who have rival principles. Very often, powerful interests enter into it. The reason the Democratic Party was the party of slavery is slavery was immensely profitable. It may not have been profitable for the South, but it was very profitable for the slave owner. And so these powerful interests of ambition and greed and lust and hatred and revenge, you can't exempt those from human nature, and so you can't exempt those from politics. And my recent work, I think, tries to pay attention to ideals, but it also tries to pay attention to these interests.
So this next question is from Elaine from Leesburg, Virginia. Do you believe the wall will be built? If so, when?
It's a good question. There's a lot of resistance to it, certainly from the Democrats and even from some Republicans. So ultimately, I think this is going to come down to, can Trump consolidate his power in the Republican Party? And can the Republican Party win more seats? More seats in the Senate, more important, but more seats in the House also welcome. I think the more that Trump's support expands, the better his chances will be. It's like FDR. FDR had a majority, but then his majorities got bigger, and his agenda then became unstoppable because essentially the Congress was, in a sense, you may say, in his pocket. So I hope the wall will get built. I hope the wall gets built for the same reason that I lock my car. We lock our car and we lock our homes for protection and security, and we need to build some sort of a wall for exactly that reason.
Yes, absolutely. What was it like growing up in India?
Very interesting question. I'm not sure I can easily answer it, but I had a happy childhood. My dad was a chemical engineer, now passed away. My mom was a housewife. I have a brother and sister. I grew up in the suburbs of Bombay, now called Mumbai. And I grew up middle class. Now, middle class in India is a little different than middle class in the United States, but nevertheless, we had a comfortable home, never missed a meal. We had a car, although a very old one. And when I came to America, it wasn't just that America offered more opportunity, the prospect of more success. It did offer that, but more importantly, it offered me a chance to write the script of my own life and to do things with my life in this country that, well, my wife Debbie here is an immigrant from Venezuela, so we both know what makes America unique. And we celebrate America. And our politics is based on that.
So this is kind of a little follow-up to that question. Was there a defining moment for you when you were a teenager or young adult that solidified you as a conservative?
I think my first experience was just coming across the sort of sheer unfairness, the extremism of the left, which I first saw from the administration at Dartmouth. I was a naive foreign student on the Dartmouth campus. I befriended a group of conservatives who were starting a new campus newspaper. We called it the Dartmouth Review. And no sooner had we issued the first edition than we got a letter from the legal office of Dartmouth College saying, it's called the cease and desist letter. Cease and desist from using the name Dartmouth. Now, the weird thing is that if you walk down Main Street in Hanover, New Hampshire, pretty much every commercial establishment is named Dartmouth. Dartmouth Cleaners, Dartmouth Bookstores, Dartmouth Pizza, Dartmouth this, Dartmouth that. These are private entities having nothing to do with the college. And the college lets them use the name. But they wouldn't let a group of their own students, because they were conservative, use the name Dartmouth, even though they were Dartmouth students writing about Dartmouth College for the Dartmouth community and Dartmouth alumni. They had to see. And so I looked at that and I go, something is really messed up here. And that was, I just remember that as one of the first indications that I had that something was very amiss ideologically. It went beyond beliefs to the fundamental issue of fairness, and that set me perhaps on my path.
This one's a little long, but let's see okay, it's from John Langford, Federal Way, Washington. We have laws that we cannot discriminate against a person, such as the Civil Rights Act, U.S. Code Title 42, Chapter 21. When is political beliefs going to be included in this? We have religious beliefs that are protected. Why aren't political beliefs important and protected as well?
Well, I think the logic of non-discrimination would say that they should be. The tricky thing here is that as conservatives, we're a little reluctant to outlaw private behavior. I would actually like to see the government, which is to say the state, prohibited from discriminating on the basis of politics. Now, we obviously have to be careful because we're not saying that, if the Democrats are elected, they can't appoint Democrats as political appointees, or vice versa for the Republicans. That's not what we mean. What we actually mean is that a guy should not be fired for a civil service federal job because it turns out he was a Republican. That would be a political hit that would be impermissible. The civil service is not supposed to be partisan. So yes, there's a lot of room for reform.
Okay, great. What would you say has been President Trump's biggest accomplishment thus far?
I think perhaps thus far his biggest accomplishment is to save the court. The court was teetering precariously. And remember, these are mostly Republican nominees to the court, but they turned out to be unpredictable. That's because Republicans aren't careful in whom they nominate. The Democrats, basically, when they nominate judicial appointees, they're looking for good Democrats who will vote the Democratic way with Euclidean certainty. And Republicans nominate these guys, we can't count on them. How's Kennedy going to vote? Oh, we got Kennedy. Whoops, we lost Roberts. No. So Trump's achievement has been with the Gorsuch nomination, and we'll see what else he does with the court, but he has a chance to really consolidate a 5-4, perhaps even a 6-3 majority, although as Dennis Miller has said, he thinks that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not only going to survive Trump and the second Trump administration, but also the first Ivanka term.
Yes. Wouldn't you say, though, that that is because we nominate constitutionalists and originalists?
It is. And in general, that's okay, because remember, the constitutional originalist philosophy does not allow the government to exceed its bounds. The Constitution is very careful in enumerating the powers of the state. But I just think our guys need to be vetted better, because how a guy like Kennedy, a guy with his finger to the wind, could have made that process, I have no idea. Who would you like to see run for president? And this is very far away, 2028. Oh, wow, that's too far for me to predict. The landscape will be unimaginably different. Just think of it. I mean, how could we have predicted, let's say, in 1980, who would run for president in the 90s or in 2000?
Or 2015.
Yeah, I think what happens is that we have to see how Trump does. I think he will do well. And if he does well, and if he's reelected, America will be a little different country in 8 years than it was before. And that means the landscape will be different. And Republicans who could have won earlier will become unviable at that time. So I want to pass on that question, but with the caveat that I think we need to see how the forest changes before we can predict which is going to be the tallest tree.
Do you think America is still the greatest country in the world?
It certainly is, and it's not even close. And look, this is not my view. I mean, it's obvious from the fact that immigrants are beating on our door to get in. Even illegal immigrants are tribute to the greatness of America because, they're so impatient to get in, they can't even wait in line. So you have to sort of admire that in a way, while at the same time firmly drawing the line. America's a magnet for the world. America is still a place where people can start out with little or nothing and become successful. Now, that happens in Europe, that happens in Australia, but in Europe, success stories are uncommon, and so people comment on them. wow, this guy's a self-made man, and so on. In America, we can't even count these people. There's so many of them. And so the abundance of America is what amazes me. America is a country of big dreams and big aspirations, and many people can realize those aspirations. It takes skill, it takes strength, it takes luck. But nevertheless, you have a chance, and that's more than you can say about your home country of Venezuela today, which is under socialist tyranny. India is getting better, but it's a long way to go before Indians. Gandhi used to dream about people wiping a tear off every Indian face. And India is making progress, but it's a long way from getting there.
How did you get started in filmmaking? Did you go to film school?
No, I'm truly, and this is another American, I'm an amateur, you know, I stumbled into it. I wanted my books to reach more people, and I realized one way for that to happen is to convert my books into pictures, put them up on the screen. So I made the Obama movie in 2012, and that caught a wind. It became the second most successful political documentary of all time. So I currently have, 16 books to my credit?
It's debatable, 16, 18, I'm not really sure.
Something around there,
lot.
and 4 films. But the latest one, Death of a Nation, very excited about it, both the book and the movie. A lot of information that you don't know, and that will empower you and fire you up.
Yes. Tell them why it's important to go see it opening weekend. I hear people say, oh, you know, it's too far for me to go, I'd rather just get it on DVD. Tell them why it's important.
You got to see the movie opening weekend, because the fate of a movie depends on opening weekend. If the movie does well, it expands to more theaters. And so see the movie and get the book right away. And here's how you get the autographed book. PremierCollectibles.com, P-R-E-M-I-E-R-E, collectibles.com/Dinesh. I've been signing a bunch of books. I'll be signing more. You can get your autographed copy for your collection. Do not, repeat, not sell it on eBay. That's an act of betrayal. Treasure it and enjoy it and learn from it. And I hope it inspires you. I'm very glad to be part of this program, so thank you very much.
Yes, and one last thing. Why do you think the left doesn't want people to see this movie? What is it about this movie that they're so afraid of?
The movie and the book both have explosive information that deconstructs their narrative. We're not just talking about fake news, we're talking about fake scholarship and fake history, the big story. I sometimes call it the meta story of America. They've put it out there, and it has all this detail to it, and I challenge it at all the key points and show that it's not the way you say it is. And here's the backup to prove that. The book actually has the chapter and verse, so it makes it the kind of thing that the left doesn't want you to read. But for that very reason, read it.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks very much. Great to be part of this.
Bye-bye.